Yes, and that is a nice thank you message here as we're kicking off the Friday, April 17th edition of our Up to Speed Live. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Global Citizen this weekend sponsoring the One World Together at Home. A lot of big names there. Just saw the Rolling Stones were announced as one of 100 of the world's biggest names in music, television, and sports come together. More on that. Thanks for joining us today. Stick around. We've got Nancy Clark from our customer service team. Of course, we'll get updates from Hans and Christy. And then after that, we'll go to Guru from Verizon Media, as well as Dr. Kavita Patel. A lot of you sent in questions for her. Going to be talking about some of the medical side of things of this. She is a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Institute and a primary care physician in Washington, D.C. So they'll be joining us for Wellness Friday today. But before we get to Hans, I just want to back it up a little bit and talk about the week we had. Chris, let's go ahead and roll that video there. This was a week where we saw innovation at work, right? Our field techs using tech to keep customers connected in different ways. Retail employees now supporting customers in different ways, continuing to respond to other crisis situations like tornadoes in the South. And of course, we can't forget the healthcare workers. We're serving those who serve, printing 3D masks, feeding the front line. Now nurses and teachers can also get up to $40 off on their service. One of the cutest, giving hugs and letters from thankful young customers. And of course, hello to our new friends at Blue Jeans. Remember yesterday we announced Verizon Business entered into an agreement to acquire Blue Jeans. So want to get over to Hans now. Hans, I know you had a busy morning. Saw you on Good Morning America talking about the concert this week with Usher and my good friend Michael Strahan. I've met him one time. He's not really a good friend. I'm just saying that. So, but Hans, what's the latest on this Friday from you, please, sir?
Thank you, Jeremy. And hey, hi, all V-teamers, wherever you are. I think we continue to focus a lot with Christy and our team on the safety and health of our employees and seeing where we are. And the team is doing a great job. But at the same time, I have to say the executive team is spending also time on phase 2 of this epidemic and planning and doing a lot of future discussions. And I think that's important. We try to have as much business as usual at the same time as we have this very serious situation with the pandemic across the globe. And we just came out from a board meeting with our board of directors talking about the situation, but also talking about our business. And today, just we had the network and technology presenting their strategy for the board, which I think went very well. But maybe I shouldn't judge. But it's a way for us to continue to have a good dialogue with our board during this time, but also doing business as usual that I have said so many times that is important. At the same time, the network team is doing a great job. We had a good readout yesterday also on how we're deploying 5G and fiber. So business as usual, seeing that we continue to bring the so important infrastructure to our customers. And again, I'm thanking everyone at the front lines doing the work you're doing to bring this critical infrastructure out in the market. So thank you for that. And on the same token, you were talking about this morning, busy morning for me. The communication department is really working hard. I started 6:30 on Fox News. Then I went on to Good Morning America, and then after that CNN, and then some meetings in between. On Good Morning America, I was together with Usher, the famous artist. That's pretty cool. And we talked about these weekends or tomorrow nights together at home, which is starting 8 o'clock. There's all kinds of artists, the best in the world that's going to be there. I think for us, what is important, number one, this is a moment of actions as well. Actions for yourself as an individual, meaning actions against the COVID-19, meaning social distancing, learning even more about how to keep you safe in this time, and actions from corporations and public. And we decided, as a partner of a Global Citizen that is running this with WHO, to continue our support. And we actually decided this morning and announced that we are adding $3 million in donation to the Solidarity Rescue Fund, which is going to the COVID-19, which is a collaboration between the WHO and the United Nations Foundation. They are running that together to bring the so needed support to the frontline and healthcare workers around the world. from this fund. So that was the news from Verizon today, what we're doing. But we're also tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, doing the technology, supporting that. And as many of you know, we're a long-term partner of Global Citizen, working with them to fight some of the larger or bigger challenges that we have on the earth today. And of course, the most imminent right now is the COVID-19 and the serious situation we have with that. So on another note, I have to thank all the V-teamers for sort of greeting all the new employees that are joining us from Blue Jeans. The overwhelming sort of support and sharing for the new employees. And I can tell you also, Tammy Irvin and her team has done a terrific job to welcoming them and working with them. And Tam and I, we have spent half of our last 24 hours in media. The interest in media has been enormous for this acquisition, not only because of the acquisition is so timely and so right, and it's straight up in our strategy. It's also showing that Verizon in these times is actually thinking about business as usual and going forward. At the same time, we're dealing with one of the most critical crises we have seen in history, basically. So I thank the team for actually doing that in a good way. So by that, I just want to end up saying that I saw in the beginning here, we were talking about the New York Times, that we partnered with them to give 14 million high school students and the teachers free New York Times and both the content from news and education. It's more than 250,000 students that has subscribed it after a weekend. And that's only 250,000 of 14 million. But it's a good start, and we're going to push even more to see that more students can get hold of this content. So all in all, that's a short updates from yesterday. A lot of things happening. And again, thank you, V-teamers, for all the great things you're doing. Back to you, Jeremy.
Oh, thank you, Han. Sorry, I'm not at the usher level. I've got big things to live up to today on this broadcast. So next, I want to get over to Nancy Clark. But before we do that, I want to share this video with you of Nicholas Sanchez, who is a solution specialist down in Humble, Texas. 14 years he's been on the V team, and as we've talked about here, we've had some store closures and stores are reopening where we can do that. But I just want to share his story about how excited he was to get back into the store to help our customers.
My name's Nick Sanchez. I work at the Deerbrook location in Humble, Texas, and I've been working for the company a little over 14 years. Our location was one of the only ones that did not close from the get-go. At the beginning, they were doing just managers out of safety. They were trying to limit the amount of employees being at the location. I received a 2-week grace, and then they asked for volunteers, so I volunteered. And now, yes, they are doing it on a rotation to where the ones that volunteer to work the location, they work 2 days out of the week, and it's spread out. This is my first week back. I've been looking forward to it, just ready to get out of the house and go out and help. I like the idea that Verizon does help customers in the past during hurricanes and now this. I've always liked the idea of being able to go out and help. Customers can still come in and get the help needed during this time. And if I can, I want to give a shout out to the Deerbrook team, my managers, Brandon, Mackenzie, and Alfredo. They were the ones right out of the gates when we were the only store open. They came up with the process and hung in there.
All right, way to go to that store down in Texas. And Nick, thanks for sharing that story with us. Now I want to get over to Nancy Clark. Nancy leads our customer service organization. So obviously another big way that we're helping customers are the folks there on the phones and through customer service chat and social media and whatnot. Nancy, give us a rundown of what your team has been working on and how they're doing today, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate being able to join the Up to Speed today and talk about everything that's going on in customer service. I thought that I would give an update on a few things. One is the transition of all of our frontline teams to work at home. I talk a little bit about what we're hearing from our customers, some ways that we've changed our ways of working, and then maybe some early insights into lessons we've learned over this past 4 weeks or so. The first thing is, if you think about the customer service organization, it's a team of about 17,000 that care for our 100 million customers across wireless and Fios. And they interact with our customers in all sorts of different ways, whether it be through voice communications, chat that happens in my Verizon app around social media, Twitter and Facebook. And I think that the teams that are watching may know that we started with a pretty strong work at home program. About 20% of our employees over the past couple of years were already home-based agents, which gave us a pretty good foundation to move everybody else home. But what it does mean is that about 80% of our employees were working in call centers, all over the country, and we needed to transition them home, which can be somewhat of a complex exercise for customer service because it requires some particular equipment. It requires call and chat routing, as well as having the right support system for our front lines. But we've been able to successfully do that. We now have 100% of our teams that are now working at home. I think the other really innovative, capability that the team brought to the table was we have typically asked that our employees who work from home have a wired broadband connection to their home because we thought that was what was necessary to manage all of our customer service systems as well as the voice conversations that were happening. But what we found was a good number of our frontline employees have completely cut the cord. As with our customers, they are 100% wireless. So we actually worked with a product team. They took our 5G router. They were able to make that fall back to 4G LTE. Our employees do all have 4G LTE connectivity. So we now have employees that are servicing customers through the 4G router. We have another 1,000 employees that we were able to bring home that are using that connectivity to serve our customers. So I thought that was pretty nice to share. Right now, we're in the midst of supporting the retail redeployment that those who were watching the broadcast yesterday heard about. The great news is we have about 500 retail employees that have completed their training. They're taking customer service calls, and over the next couple of weeks, we'll scale that program pretty substantially. But I thank all of our retail teammates that have been willing to dedicate their time towards our customer service efforts. I did want to share a little bit about what we're hearing from our customers. We measure our customer volumes, pretty regularly, day of week, each hour of the day. Right now, our volumes are running about 90% of where they typically have been. But we are hearing some different questions and or concerns. So the first is access to our services. Obviously, our customers rely on our wireless connectivity or broadband connectivity, and the programs that we've been able to put in place in terms of additional data, additional content for our Fios customers, the discount programs that we've now expanded to nurses and teachers have been really great tools for us to be able to talk to our customers about. The second is certainly financial and payment related questions with everything that is going on economically in the world. I think as most who are watching know that we have made our commitment to the Keep America Connected pledge, which has certain provisions in it in terms of not suspending service and not charging late fees for those customers that are impacted financially by COVID-19. And then the final is tech support. So you can imagine in an ordinary time, if something goes wrong with your mobile phone or with your home broadband, that's unsettling. But during this time, it's even that much more important. So we are doing everything that we can to make sure that we are solving those needs for our customers, either over the phone or via chat. I thought I would share a quick quote from one of our customers. It said, a sincere thanks to Verizon for keeping us up and running at home. A power surge on Friday, blowing my modem was resolved with a quick, friendly, and useful phone call. You have my loyalty for life. So that's certainly, the level of service that we're looking to provide to our customers. We have, in some cases, changed our ways of working. Initially, when we had so many employees in the midst of moving home, we did scale back our hours of operation pretty substantially. The good news is now that we do have employees at home and we have the addition of the employees that are coming from retail redeployment, we are now opening those hours back up for our customers. We'll be open 7 days a week. We'll be open 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. each of those days for our customers. So that's certainly good news. We also have seen, though, that customers are contacting us in different ways, more so via chat and or text messaging. So we're redeploying some of our team members to those avenues of communication. We've also had some terrific contributions from our GTS partners in terms of systems. One of the things that we found was that our prepaid customer support was impacted pretty significantly at the start of this crisis. And very quickly, within 7 days, our GTS partners were able to bring our prepaid customer service systems into our postpaid customer service systems so that all of our team members could care for our prepaid customers. So that was just a remarkable turnaround. The other area that we've been focused on is meeting our social responsibility commitment. So we were well on our way to our contribution towards the 2.5 million hours for customer service. That's about 50,000 hours during this year. And the good news there is we were in the midst of creating some disaster recovery packs. And what we found is that we were quickly able to redeploy some of those supplies to our network team members that were out in the field. We also were able to take some of those supplies and give them to some of our community-based organization. And now we're in the midst of retooling our volunteerism efforts with all of the virtual volunteerism programs that Rose Kirk and her team have put together. So we're certainly remain committed to our 50,000 hours there. What I thought I would just close with is maybe a little bit of insight in terms of lessons learned. One of the things that myself and my team were really focused on this year was going when we have 80% of the solution designed and being comfortable making decisions and acting quickly. I think that we have found during this particular crisis that in some cases we have gone at much less than 80% completely designed, but we've been successful in doing so. And we're making sure that, those items where we moved quickly, we know and understand, the balance of things that need to be, fixed and developed so that we can meet the highest level of productivity. But I think it's a good lesson learned for all of us. And, it's always a testament to me in terms of running to a crisis. And every time something like this happens, our teammates and colleagues at Verizon really come together and do so. So thanks, Jeremy. That's a little bit of an update from customer service.
Nancy, thanks so much. And wow, your team is busy keeping folks connected there. I gotta give a shout out to my customer service roots with the company about 13 years ago. That's where I started, and appreciate all the work they do day in and day out, and still have a lot of friends there. So hey, friends, how are you? Want to get over to Christy now for an update on what's happening in her world. Christy, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Jeremy, and great to be here today with Nancy and with Hans, and just a couple of updates so we could get to some questions. First, we heard from Nancy, and that we've got pictures of doctors and nurses and our frontline folks out there helping keep society get on through this crisis. And so we want to just highlight that. At the retail stores, we know time is of the essence for all of these workers out there on the front line of the COVID crisis. So we want them to know, while we do look for appointments only in the stores, we are relaxing that protocol so our frontline heroes can come right in and get primary access to the stores. And so this will apply for healthcare workers, first responders, military, and teachers. And if they present identification of their role, they'll get to go to the front of the line and enter the store. We just want everybody on the front line to know we're here for them. The connectivity we know really matters to society, and we want to show back how helpful and grateful we are for everything they're doing. And then in that same vein, you heard Nancy highlighting everything around volunteerism and how the team in her organization is working on that. Next week is National Volunteerism Week, and we've extended that to be a global focus for Verizon. And so we just want to remind everybody, we got to hear from Rose Kirk on Up to Speed a week ago, and we've had since that time over a 400% increase in the activity of the V-teamers raising their hands to volunteer and find ways to help out. Even on the COVID crisis, we've taken and put on a number of curated opportunities for people to volunteer virtually to help out. And we saw some great examples of our Verizon employees making masks and doing other things like online virtual mentoring, or even doing crisis support, as we saw from one of our employees last week. So really a great week ahead, and we want to thank everybody for everything they got done this week.
Good. Thank you for all of that, Christy. Another big thing that you talked about yesterday, two things actually. Chris, let's go and take that slide. A lot of people were asking about the Verizon the V Team gear that you're wearing. I want to share this web address with everybody that they can go to. It's VZ, and we'll put it in the story later today as well, but it's VZ2.0.com. Proceeds of your purchase there will be donated to V2V. Also, a lot of folks have talked about communications and the way that we're staying in touch with everybody. Want to remind people how they can download our app. We've talked about that because it's open to anybody with any type of a device. It doesn't have to be a company issued device, it can be a personal one, but you can just search inside Verizon in either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store to get that downloaded so you're in touch with everything that is going on. So thank you for announcing that as well, Christy, about those who serve and folks who can get into our stores to get help if they need it. So I want to move over to some questions now. We've got Nancy Clark on the line with us, obviously. Nancy, seeing some things on social media about not being able to get through to someone right away or having to wait for a bit on hold. What's the call volume like? What are the levels looking like for your teams today?
Yeah, Jeremy, overall, call volume is about 90% of where it was prior to, the most recent 4 weeks. But what I will tell you is it's different volume. And as I described, we may have more technical support volume. It happens during different time of day than we typically, staff to because customers are now at home during the middle of the day. So, overall, we're working to make sure that we do make schedule adjustments, that we move team members to, different assignments to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our customers. And with the addition of the employees that we'll be able to bring on board through the retail redeployment, I think we will find ourselves, very shortly, nicely staffed across the board to be able to meet all of the requirements for our customers. In the meantime, we certainly appreciate the patience of our customers and will absolutely get to their concerns and make sure that they are resolved. So that's where we are right now.
Good, Nancy, thank you for that. Chris, do you want to go back to a question for you next? This one is one that has come up a few times as well, talking about the caregiver leave policy. And folks want to know, why is it that they have to reapply for that after they've already done the initial application?
Great, thanks for that. I think a couple of things are important to put in context here. First, we're dealing with a very fluid situation and around the world. And here in the United States, we have different governments and different municipalities that are in various stages of states of emergency and shelter-in-place provisions, and whether schools are open or closed, dependent care facilities are available or not. And so we update every few days what are the status of the various regions and municipalities around the world that we operate in. And so we're issuing caregiver leave in 5-day increments, recognizing that as the situations change, we will look to change those policies. And so I would just tell our employees it's a really great benefit, and the team's able to turn those requests around in 24 hours. And we appreciate everybody understanding that this is a very fluid situation. We've even heard guidelines in the last 24 hours from the government here in the United States and a number of other governments outside the United States as we all wrestle with where are we going to go from here. And I would just say Hans and myself and the VLC are spending a fair amount of time on that. And we know that's on the V teamers' minds as well. So as we get toward later in April, we'll be hopefully beginning to share and communicate what our thoughts are on that. But we're really in the forming stages of that. And that's tied to all of the other programs and leaves and things we put in place to really address the crisis.
All right, Christy, thank you for that update as well. One other question that came in for you, Christy. Let me make sure I get it correct here. This came from social. Brian Adamek, who is at Badamek83, wants to know your favorite Harry Potter book. People have noticed your background there and your love for Harry Potter.
I do love Harry Potter, and I named my son Harry, so my 13-year-old is named Harry. Definitely book 7.
Book 7? Which one is? I'll have to take your word. I'll admit to everybody,
I'm the Deathly Hallows.
I've never watched any of the movies. I'm probably going to get a lot of notes about that now. I'm so sorry.
List. That's a perfect activity when you're on that Peloton bike. Grab a Harry Potter book.
There we go. See, Christy, always looking out for us. I appreciate that. So before we wrap this up for the day and get over to Guru and Dr. Patel, who will be joining us for Wellness Friday here shortly, Hans, give us your final thoughts, please, going into the weekend, sir.
Yeah, we're going into the weekend. First of all, I would like to thank Nancy and all her teammates there about the fantastic work they're doing, meeting people in the most sensitive situation, you know, when technology needs to work, and with this pandemic, it's extremely important. But it's also important because that is the perception you're putting on Verizon every day in those phone calls, how we show up and how we talk, and the way the whole customer service organization has pivoted and continue to do this incredible, important work for us and for our customers. I thank you. I thank you all for it. I know how much hard work it is, but it shows, and people and our customers realized how important this is for us to serve our customers. So once again, thank you. Well, going into the weekend, I don't have so much to say. I have the same, as I said before, we're coming into the sixth week of being in quarantine, many of us, some even longer. I have to say, it's important to continue to have communication with all your friends, colleagues, family. Just see that you reach out. Some might be very alone in these times, usually have a workplace to go to, or people visiting them cannot do this right now. So I urge to make that phone call, send that SMS, do a video chat. As I reported yesterday on Easter Sunday, video chat was up 36%. So clearly people are doing it, but we need to see that all the time. So that's my message going into the weekend. And of course, the thoughts is going to the V-teamers and the broader V-team family that has been impacted by the COVID-19, that we think about you, and we hope all the best, and we are here for you if there's something. The whole V-teamer is here for you, and of course the Christy and her organization as well. So happy weekend for the ones having weekend. Some in the front line going to work and support our customers, and I wish you also a happy weekend and thank you for the work you're doing. So back to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Hans. I appreciate it. And I've got a list of folks to reach out to. Of course, I always want to give thanks to my wife, Alex, who is upstairs right now doing her work, but sharing my office with her on a daily basis. So thank you, Alex. I will cook you dinner tonight. How about that? I want to wrap up with this today. Let's go ahead and bring up this slide that was a picture we got from one of our V-teamers, Kathy, out in Illinois, Schaumburg. She works on the 5G team. She's an engineer. But her daughter, Rika, she really likes the Verizon logo and likes what we're doing every day. So she designed this for her mom for all of her video conference calls to have as a backdrop. Hey, Rika, we know some people. We're going to send your resume and portfolio to our brand and creative team. So thank you for sharing that. And finally, one last call today for the weekend big concert with One World Together at Home. You heard Hans talk about the additional donation that he announced earlier today. Big lineup, music, television, and sports. Tune in tomorrow to see for yourself, streaming that on Yahoo. Of course, you can also catch that across a number of networks on Fios. So big show tomorrow. You do not want to miss that. So earlier, I mentioned we would be having Wellness Fridays today. So it's my pleasure to once again bring in Guru from Verizon Media. He is joined by Dr. Kavita Patel today, and they're going to answer some of your questions that you've had about what this means for your health and well-being. So Guru, take us away, and thank you so much. Everyone have a good weekend.
Great. Hey, Jeremy, thank you. It's great to be here, and hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. It's great to see the energy and how the V-teamers continue to move forward in a great way. Again, I'm excited to join today on Up to Speed again. Even though we are many weeks into this pandemic, we know there are still lots of questions on your mind about the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, and how that affects you and your family's health and well-being. While there's a ton of information out there, sometimes it can feel like information overload, as we all know. So to help answer some of your top-of-mind questions, we've invited a very special guest, Dr. Kavita Patel, to join us today. Dr. Patel is currently a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Institute. She is also a practicing primary care physician in Washington, D.C. She was previously a director of policy for the White House under President Obama and a senior advisor to the late Senator Edward Kennedy. Needless to say, she knows her stuff really well. Thank you, Dr. Patel, for joining us. And today we're, of course, talking to a much broader audience across Verizon. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Guru. And I just want to, I caught the kind of tail end of the last kind of section. And I just want to echo my thanks to all of the employees, and particularly those of you that are really providing all of us in the world kind of access to information. It's such a, I often remind people that, you know, people are talking about doctors and nurses as frontline workers, but I would actually say that probably what you're doing is helping not just the United States, but the world stay informed. So I just want to give a lot of credit to everyone. And I'm just happy to play a small role in trying to answer all the questions that I have and have done some research on, and hopefully can make shed some sunlight on things for you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind thoughts. So I'll get into the question. You know, first, could you start with the latest news? I mean, that we have on this virus that we should all be aware of. I guess the most important headline, if you will.
Yeah, here's the most important headline. The social distancing is working. And I'm going to make this global, but talk a little bit about what we know in the US as well. So we are starting to see a decrease, not just in New York City, but we're starting to see decreases in what we call the doubling rate of cases. And the bottom line, though, is that even when we think that things are better and we might want to relax some of the social distancing, we know it's working, and we need to continue it aggressively. So we do know that. We also know, unfortunately, Guru, that we're having more and more deaths that we're discovering even before we had testing for COVID-19, that people probably had this disease early on January, early February, and we didn't actually have the diagnosis. So it's a positive message overall, that even though it's frustrating for all of us to kind of feel like we can't live our normal lives, we are keeping everyone in the world healthier. And then there are some interesting treatments. We're getting early data back about some very hopeful signs about treatments, so that if you are sick with coronavirus, we actually do have, not for everybody, it's certainly still preliminary, but we are getting data about certain antiviral drugs that can actually make sure that you get out of the hospital and you return to kind of a functional, healthy life. Unfortunately, though, we're still, as I mentioned, very early. And then I'll say that we're also seeing, Guru, out of South Korea, Taiwan, China, we're seeing cases of what we might call reinfection. We're looking at those very closely. And many of us in the science and public health community believe that maybe they weren't reinfected, but maybe they had kind of low levels of the virus that were not detected. And then they had a little bit of what we would call a flare. So those are probably the most important things for people to realize overall.
Great. No, that's great to hear. I think the good segue into the next question is just, what signs or symptoms should people look for as a red flag? I know we've learned a lot over the last few weeks. So what are those signs and symptoms as a red flag to seek medical care?
Yeah, we're understanding that we still think a fever, you know, anything over 100.4 in an adult or higher, a fever, and then what I'll call kind of, you know, the respiratory tract in this area. So kind of upper respiratory, not necessarily the kind of head cold, but a little bit more like in the throat, and then sometimes feeling like it's in the lungs. Cough, that can certainly be a symptom. You have probably seen, and I think Yahoo News has done a great job reporting on some unusual symptoms like loss of smell. Not everybody gets that, but that can sometimes be a sign. And then we do have like a number of patients, up to 10% of patients reported kind of feeling like an upset stomach. Now that, again, those are not reasons to kind of have a panic alarm, but I would argue that if you have any symptoms, period, we now should be able to get you tested a lot more quicker than the last time I had a conversation with Yahoo and with Verizon. So I would say that anything that's concerning, reach out to a health professional. And then what's new since I last spoke with you is that we now know at least 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people with coronavirus have no symptoms whatsoever. So it's hard to know what to do if you have no symptoms, but that's all the more reason why we need to kind of continue to stay at home, unless you have an essential job like many of your Verizon's family who can't avoid going to work. but with the non-medical mask, which is really, you can take a pillowcase, cut it, and kind of tie it around your nose and mouth. That should help protect others from getting sick from you, even if you don't know you're sick.
Sure. And that leads to within your friends and family, and have you had anyone close to you infected or affected by COVID-19?
I have. So unfortunately, both being in healthcare and just having families that are in kind of urban areas like New York, I've had both family members, and I actually have had friends die from this. A 48-year-old emergency room physician who was otherwise healthy and we think had just been exposed to coronavirus so repeatedly because he works in the emergency room, and unfortunately kind of went on a ventilator, went into a coma, and ultimately passed away. So when people ask me, you know, why are we doing this? Corona is not so bad in my community. We don't live in these little perfectly sealed bubbles, Guru. So we have to realize that we're global, and that if we don't all practice the same distancing measures, people have died. And I do have friends on the positive note that have gotten sick and been able to stay at home and recover. Also friends who are in healthcare. But, you know, some of you may be following the reporting that you're doing. It's rough. You know, you get fevers. People are having like some really kind of weaknesses. So I've had all of it. I myself have been tested multiple times because, to be honest, even when I get like a little flushed or have an ache or pain, I'm worried that I have it. So I've been tested and I've been negative. But I'll be honest, a lot of us in healthcare operate under the assumption that at some point we're going to get it. And so it is real, and it is a little scary.
And so in that case, like, what are the top 3 things then that you would advise people to do in order to keep healthy in their day-to-day lives? I mean, you know, as we go through this.
Yeah, no, so we talked about distancing, but at some point, obviously, all of us are going to want to come out of our apartments or homes, and many of us have to work even throughout this time period. So if you are outside, even I'm going to wear one of those non-medical masks myself, not just at the grocery store, but I'm going to start to probably just do that if I kind of return to going to other places like the bank or any of these other, the dentist's office, in the waiting room, that type of thing. Non-medical masks, Guru. I do not think you can be too crazy about carrying hand sanitizer. If you could wash your hands everywhere you're going, great. But carry, you know, a little bottle. Now, we don't know if Purell or any of those brands work on coronavirus, but we do know that they help beyond doing nothing. So taking that with you. I would also be pretty comfortable if you're going in an elevator and are going to the grocery store, wiping the handles with just a set of pocket wipes, you know, the sanitized wipes, or spraying the sanitizer and then kind of using a cloth to do that. People ask about wearing gloves. I'll be honest, gloves get really easily contaminated. So the only reason to wear a glove would be to not touch your face. But if you're wearing a mask, you're not going to touch your face. And then I do think at work, all of us, including Verizon, we're going to have to deal with having a work environment where you can maintain some distance. And so my advice is start thinking now about, even a month from now, how can you make sure in your cubicles or open space environment that you still allow for flexibility to either work from home or have a little bit of a distance between you and your colleagues? And the same would go for schools. Schools are going to be doing the same things for our children. I suspect the school year for most of us, if you haven't had it already canceled, will get canceled. So, but I think we're going to have to start thinking about how to kind of live life in a new normal.
Got it. No, thanks for those advices. I know people are taking notes, and this will help us a lot. Now I want to switch to employee questions. We had a lot of questions coming across Verizon. The first one is around social distancing in your home. So if you have a partner or a family member who cannot shelter at home due to being part of the essential workforce, which we have, some of them, what additional precautions do you recommend to protect that person and their family? And should any necessary other public interactions like getting food be performed by the same person or somebody else?
Yeah, it's a great question, Guru. And I'll tell you what I do, what my husband, who's also a physician, does. I've gotten pretty comfortable of changing clothes. I've kind of got a set of clothes in the garage. As a doctor, I can wear scrubs and get away with it, but you get a set of clothes that you have in the garage that have been washed and change out whatever you've worn outside, shoes included, socks, kind of basically pretend like you're completely head to toe changing clothes, and then take those dirty clothes, put them in the washer, just treat them like, dirty laundry. And I know some people, I haven't done this regularly, some people will actually shower. We don't think that the virus is just sitting and living in our hair. So hopefully just changing your clothes and washing your hands really carefully is good enough. I have had those same friends I told you about who were sick with coronavirus. They ended up like either staying in a motel or moving into a basement. I don't think you need to do that if you're an essential worker. You just need to have those precautions so that you can kind of change out of everything, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds in warm water with soap, and that's enough. Picking up food, groceries, all of those things, again, if you follow these precautions, there really shouldn't be any reason, and wear a non-medical mask when you're shopping or picking up food from the curbside even. There's really no reason, Guru, to go beyond that. You should feel, and because we're going to be doing this for so many weeks to months, you need to interact with your family. So it's really about protecting them from you, but doing all of that in a garage, or if you don't have a garage, somewhere where your family will not spend time is the way to do it.
Got it. Now, that's a great tip. I try to do it at the entrance of the doorway in a way, and then you go through that. No, that's a great tip. Now, just you touched on this in terms of going out and about. The next question is about with shelter in place and social distancing or physical distancing, how safe is it to go outside for a run or a walk? What is the recommended amount of the time to be able to be outside? I recently saw research, I think that was done in somewhere in Denmark, where it talked about like if you're following somebody right behind, even if you're 6 feet away, how long do if there are the viruses up in the air, how long does it stay? So walk us through that thinking.
Yeah, so there have been several studies, all of them done in labs. So in an incredibly controlled setting, there has been proof of the virus existing in the air for even up to 3 hours. But let me tell you that the majority of cases are not from someone coughing and then you running by an hour. Those at labs, including that study in Denmark that you cited, those are highly, highly what I'll call experimental kind of conditions that most mimic actually a hospital condition. So is it possible that there are airborne, really small droplets that can kind of linger in the air? Potentially, yes, but the majority of cases, all the cases we're seeing in hospitals and clinics are coming from respiratory contact directly, either someone coughs on your face or coughs into their hand, shakes your hand. That's the kind of contact. What I would say is that anybody who can go outside, including myself, for 20 to 40 minutes, run, walk, that will incredibly enhance your endorphins and mental health. And you should not worry about having a run, that you see someone maybe 20 feet ahead and you're worried that they were coughing. That is not the way you are going to catch coronavirus. The only thing I would add is that that's another reason why you might want to start getting comfortable with this non-medical mask or something that you wear. It doesn't protect you from them, it protects them from you. But if we're all wearing it, then we're all protected. So I would encourage people to go outside, keep that 6-foot distance. Is there a potential that there could be something airborne? It is very unlikely, but I won't say never because there's always a case. But so far, all the cases we're seeing, we actually have high confidence of kind of how or when those people were able to catch the virus. Most of them knew somebody who eventually was diagnosed. So that's the most likely way.
Sure. I think the next one touches on the mask question. It's from a parent. The question is, I absolutely cannot get my 2-year-old to wear a mask, and so haven't been inside of any stores since mid-March. Are face masks critical for children as well if they will be restrained inside of any shopping cart and all of that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of, I'll call it flexibility, because I've got a 3-year-old and to get her to wear a mask is also near impossible. And so the guidance is for ages, quote, 2 and up to wear some sort of non-medical mask. but I completely understand. I think the critical piece with anybody of any age that's younger is going to be recognizing if they have symptoms and how to protect anybody else from being exposed to anyone with symptoms. I mentioned, however, that there are probably children who have had coronavirus, didn't show any symptoms, might have been part of even passing it along that we do not know about. So my advice would be that if you've got a 2-year-old and you know they're never going to put a mask on like mine, and you need to go and do some essential shopping, I think you really need to start thinking about either alternative hours coming when, like, you can go either later with a child, or making sure you are incredibly aware about distance yourself. And I think that the bottom line is that if you can keep that 6 foot, and there's nothing magic about 6 feet except that it's incredibly hard to cough, and particles just do not travel after 6 feet that far. They fall to the ground. So if you can keep a decent distance wherever you are, that's fine. If not, I would advise you to try to make a game out of it. You're seeing a lot more creativity with children, and there are going to be a lot more other children wearing them. So I think they'll start to get more comfortable. But I would start to consider how you can, just mentally get your child to see that you're wearing one and that it's okay to wear one.
Oh, that's a great tip. I like the game idea as well. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The next category is around food and deliveries. I think a lot of us are facing this. So the first question is, should we be disinfecting the Amazon boxes, the delivery drive-through food containers that come through, and the grocery store items in the bags?
Yeah, so again, not just from that study you cited, Guru, but there's also been several other studies to kind of understand. Remember, nobody's really understood much about this virus until this pandemic started. So a lot of information that we have comes from actually other coronaviruses, which cause the common cold, and what we know about them. Here's the bottom line. Packages, there has been, again, in some of those kind of laboratory-controlled studies, evidence that the virus can survive on cardboard and metal surfaces. I think the most practical thing is to kind of keep in some part of your house packages, cardboard boxes from Amazon for about 24 hours. There have been some studies that show it can last a little longer, but the virus, you would have to have so much of the virus present on that box in order to have it exist past 24 hours that it's highly unlikely. And so you can, if you can, put that into some part of your house that you just kind of keep off limits for 24 hours, then you can open the box, wash your hands, and you're good. I think that if it's something essential and you really need to open that package, you open that package. You just do it in a more controlled way where you wash your hands afterwards immediately, and anything with that package you dispose of probably directly into your garbage, just so nobody else touches it. And then if you're thinking about plastic or letters, I'll talk about fruit to be practical. People have asked me, should I be wiping down the boxes that I buy myself at the grocery store? Again, we do not think that the majority, people are not getting this from touching, the cereal box at their grocery store, unless someone had just come within seconds before and actually coughed on it. So you really don't have to kind of do that. But if you are really concerned, you buy your groceries, leave them in a place, and open them up 24 hours later, put them in a refrigerator or freezer, and then give yourself at least a 24-hour time period and wash your hands. Fruit, vegetables. The U.S. Department of Agriculture in the United States has actually put out a statement. There has been no known transmission of coronavirus from fruits to humans. So that should make people feel better. However, if you just want to follow clean technique, you put the fruit or vegetables, put it under running kind of warm water. We have reason to believe that at higher temperatures, the virus does not live. So cooking something, or at least running it under warm water for, 20 seconds should be good enough. You should not need to use soap on your fruit or vegetables. You should not need to do any of that. I don't. But with that, just being sensible and washing, and if it's something like lettuce that might have dirt in it, letting it soak in water and getting the dirt out is good enough. Do not worry that you're exposing your family to risk by, doing any of those things. And then I'll just say, Guru, because I think it's a question that I had, but your kind of family might take out boxes. what we've been trying to do with takeout boxes is kind of immediately take the takeout food and then opening them up into kind of our own home glass containers or our own plastic containers, and then taking the takeout, whatever it came in, and just disposing of that, and then washing our hands. So, lay out a space on your counter, get the takeout boxes, put them down, empty them out into something else if you want to just be extra cautious. Take those containers, throw them away, wipe down the counter. And that, to me, feels like you're doing everything. But let me stress that if you forgot to do this, do not freak out. This is really, really an unlikely source. But I think it'll help all of us feel like we're making sure we're protecting our families as best as we can.
No, that's, thank you for that. It's going to make, I like some of the hacks you've shared. It's going to make my life easier, a little bit easier for sure. And not panicking when you miss something, I think it's good as well, not to put that extra stress. The next category is around immunity. I think we talk about people, some who are getting sick, not getting. So it seems like there are some people who are immune to the virus and others that have very few symptoms. What is the difference between those folks and the ones that get really sick from it, besides the comorbidities that happen? Or if you have a positive antibody test, does that mean that you had the virus and can't get it again unless it mutates?
Great questions. Let me just start with kind of my simple beginner's guide to immunity. Think of immunity as having a driver's license. So having a driver's license means, yes, I can get in my car and I can go drive, but it doesn't protect me from an accident all the time. So immunity itself, especially for coronavirus, we think immunity can be protective, but we're not 100% sure. And we know that just like with having a driver's license, that's kind of the basics, but that there are some people with a driver's license who are incredibly good drivers, and then there are some who are just kind of bad drivers. So immunity can, protect you, but it can vary to degrees of how much it protects you. And immunity is also something that is different with different points in time. So you can have an immunity, and everybody's talking about the blood test. New York launched kind of a more community-wide blood test, and you saw people lining up to get that. The blood test tells you if you've developed antibodies, and there are several different kinds of antibodies. If you've developed antibodies against the coronavirus, we think that that protects you at least for several months. We're not sure if it's permanent, and I'll give you the example why. We know with the flu, the regular flu season, influenza viruses, we know that when you get immunity from the vaccine, it only protects you in that season because the virus mutates and we get a whole different type of flu strain, which is why you need a different vaccine the next year. So we don't know if corona is going to act that way or not, but we do know that immunity is going to be something, especially for returning to work. A lot of people have emphasized that. Let me just say, though, that the tests we have right now are still in its beginning phase. They're not that great because this is a new virus. So before you rush out and think, I'm going to go get my immunity test, it's going to be the golden ticket to go back to work, I would pause and say the more important thing is to actually have a mechanism with your doctor or with your employer where if you need regular testing every week, that you could get it. And that's not for today, but that's weeks from now. And then you ask the question, Guru, of what are we knowing now about people who are sick? Why are they getting sick? Why are people like my friend who was at home and just toughed it out and he did not get sick? And we think that there's something about the virus itself that triggers part of your natural immune system to kind of go crazy and release a set of inflammatory factors. And it's not just the comorbidities. There's something about all of us that when you probably get down to our DNA, that you'll see that there's triggers on certain receptors. And the reason we think that's the case is because when we use antiviral treatments, the ones that are working on certain parts of the immune pathway, and they're not working on others. And that's why some people are getting better and some people aren't. So it's complicated, but we are learning a lot more. It's unfortunately going to take us probably, another year or so to get a vaccine. But that vaccine is going to be what will probably be the most protective agent for all of us, including healthy people who have gotten the virus.
Sure. And I think that's a good segue. We talk about the high-risk population or effects on specific population. One of the areas has been talked about asthma. And this question is around wondering what the repercussions are for risk for someone who has been infected. If you have bad asthma, does whoever it is need to let the asthma doctors know ahead of time, or should they plan ahead? What's the best course of action? That is one of the categories among other high-risk areas.
Absolutely. Yeah, asthma is a good one because a lot of children have asthma too. So I know there are a lot of parents who are worried as well. Here's some good news about asthma. Asthma was considered months ago to be kind of an incredibly high risk factor because it's a lung condition, and coronavirus seems like it's predominantly a lung, a disease that affects the lungs most directly. We now know that asthma alone, especially well-controlled asthma with an inhaler, in and of itself is not really a dramatic risk factor for coronavirus. If you have poorly controlled asthma, yes, that can be a risk factor, but asthma that is controlled itself is not showing to have kind of I'll call it a disproportionate concern with coronavirus. But having said that, two things. One, if you have asthma, we are seeing a shortage of those machines to give out the inhaler. So if you are an asthmatic, make sure you've got at least 3 months of medication because you don't want to be short at the last minute. Number two, I would argue for my own asthmatic patients that I would want to get them tested whenever I could sooner rather than later, just so that I could understand if they had been exposed to it, then that individual will be able to help kind of make decisions. Because I have patients who are asthmatic who are very nervous about returning to work and getting sick. So I actually think as a doctor, we're going to have to advocate for those patients. And by the way, not just my asthmatics, patients with diabetes, heart disease. So I'll put this all in the same bucket. I actually think that you should make an attempt to get tested, and you're going to need to do several of these tests probably, like I said, not just for immunity, but to see if you have the virus. And I think that that's going to be one of the ways we'll know we can safely return to work or, go to school or go to classes and things like that.
No, that's great. Thank you for that. And I think it gives us a playbook, at least for people. And maybe next time we'll cover more around the at-risk community a bit more. I know we're running out of time. The next question, more broadly, and I have one more after this around mental health, but what are your remarks broadly that you would share? I mean, you started off saying there's a lot of positive around things we're discovering and how we should take care of ourselves. Anything else that you would want to share? And then I want to get into the mental health piece for a bit.
Yeah, I'll just share broadly that I'm still concerned in the United States we're not testing enough. I mean, we're probably running, there are estimates that we are at full capacity. We're only running about 1 million tests at a day that we have the capacity to do that. I mean, we're talking about, that's a small percentage of our population. So I am still concerned that all of us, I mentioned I've been tested. All of us probably want to get tested for clarity. And I've already told you that you're going to probably need multiple tests because no one test is probably enough. And that's probably top of mind. So for the people listening, I think this is a critical time to kind of have a relationship with some sort of healthcare provider. I know that many of us, my own family included, very few of us have a primary care doctor. Everything's virtual. I would argue right now, if you don't have access to a healthcare professional, establish one. You've got time on your hands if you are at home, if you're an essential worker and you can carve time out. I'm sure, any employer is also going to be thinking about this, but try to identify someone convenient in your community, because I do think testing, that's going to be the metric by which our success is determined in recovering from this. And so I think that's critical, Guru, to have a trusted relationship, and it's never too late to start one.
No, thank you for that advice. And I'll end with this last question, which is, this is obviously a very incredibly anxious and stressful time for everyone. We've talked about this before. What are you telling people that they can boost their broader mental health during these times?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I see it in patients who have never had even a history of depression or any sort of mental health episode. But I also see, obviously, a lot of patients that are having dramatic kind of increases in their mental health, kind of the negative part of their mental health. Number one, activity, whether it's the 7-minute workout that you can Google and do in the corner of your room, or like you mentioned, trying to physically get some outside air, which I highly encourage, even if it's on your back balcony with a little bit of sun. Absolutely, exposure, exercise, and then emotional, kind of the 3 E's. So exposure to sunlight or the air, emotional, and exercise. And I'll say on emotional, I mentioned this before, I would strongly encourage, if you're by yourself and you're at home alone, then to try to have like a relationship with somebody else who's also been at home or isolated, and actually go ahead and kind of form like a virtual unit so that you can support each other. And then highly encourage you to use, probably through Verizon Media, a number of the platforms to actually physically see each other. We've been watching some studies that just being able, even on the internet or on a laptop or a phone, being able to physically see people has made a really big difference. And so the 3 E's: emotion, exercise, exposure. And that will probably put you over the edge. But then I also just want to say in closing, do not be afraid to ask for help, because people will experience new or recurring episodes of mental health disorders, and you need to ask for help.
No, thank you, Dr. Patel. The 3 E's, I'm sure people will take that and ask for help. I think it's very important. We talk about even the stigma on mental health and how it doesn't matter. I think these are the times everybody needs to feel you can ask for help. Nobody's going to judge. And we at Verizon have given people a lot of resources. So the call to action here is to ask for help. And thank you for sharing that. Again, Dr. Patel, thank you for joining. We are keeping you and your family, your healthcare professional colleagues in our thoughts. I know you guys are doing an amazing job keeping us forward. So have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay strong. Thank you again.
You too. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.